Hello everyone and welcome back to Void War Studios. If this video is at all late or delayed, I have been feeling quite sick lately and delayed in uploading this video. Because of that, hopefully that won't be the case. I hope that won't detract on the quality of the video, but onwards we go. And of course, as it's 40k Sunday, we're going to go back to the Imperial Guard, and a very important individual involved in all of the Imperium's technical and mechanical maintenance. I am of course referring to the Enginseer, a tech priest of Mars. All Enginseers are aspirants who were originally trained on Mars, the Red Planet. And in a deal struck before the Horus Heresy and before the Great Crusade, the Mechanicum agreed to supply the Imperial Army with whatever technical expertise it requires, be it in their navy, Astra Millitarum, or whatever other faction or function they are required in. Now, I will go into the tech priests and the Mechanicum in a separate video, as I think they truly deserve it. They might even be the next lore video I go into for 40k, we'll see. But to give you the basic lowdown, an Enginseer for the Imperial Guard is a tech priest who specialises in the maintenance and continued function of all mechanical assets that the Astra Millitarum own. So, if your tank track falls off, it's one of these individuals in red coats who will come along and will put it back on again. If for whatever reason your gun barrel jams and you need it repaired, it will be your tech priest who will first scold you, and then he will try his or her best to fix it. Enginseers are specific to the Imperial Guard because they are the ones who are sent specifically for maintaining the vehicles that the Imperial Guard use for their various campaigns. And because of the religious significance that the Mechanicum place on their vehicles, as they believe that all mechanical constructs have a machine spirit, which is something I'll dive into in the Mechanicum video. But to summarise, the machine spirit is what they believe is the spark, the thing that gives it a personality, makes it alive, makes it, well, holy. Now, just to be clear, we're not talking about an artificial intelligence here. The Mechanicum do not love artificial intelligence at all. In fact, they call it abominable intelligence because way back in Earth's history, well, AI was invented, but it started running amok and causing all kinds of trouble, and cue Mad Max mixed with Terminator Wasteland with robots running around trying to kill humanity. So yeah, the Mechanicum call it abominable intelligence. When I'm referring to a machine spirit, the Mechanicum refer to it as essentially the function that the machine wants to do is its spirit. When it's unable to do that function, that's when the spirit is upset or hurt or damaged. It can actually feel pain. And there are a ridiculously wide variety of rituals, prayers and incantations that a tech priest needs to learn in order to access various functions of whatever he or she is working on. I do not exaggerate in any way that when it comes to the Mechanicum and fixing things, it is very much a religious ceremony as well as a practical one, as the Mechanicum have such reverence for larger and larger machines that this becomes basically a religious ceremony, and a lot of the secrets of the Mechanicum are lost because no one's entirely sure where the religious ceremony ends and the actual practical application of mechanics begins, as the Mechanicum see them as one and the same. So changing a light bulb could take hours because the Mechanicum's tech priest has to do a ridiculous number of prayers first. Or it could take a few seconds because the Mechanicum sends a command from his or her brain to a particular computer, and the computer does the function that it's requested it does. And it is the Enginseer's job to make sure that these vehicles are well maintained and are not tampered with. As Imperial Guardsmen are often known to do, they do tamper every now and again, something that irks a Enginseer to no end. Some of it is, well, necessary for the various campaigns, some of it is personal preference or just general techno-heresy, as the Enginseer will grumble. And whilst techno-heresy is funny in a certain sense because you've moved a screw in a particular direction that isn't part of the Mechanicum's traditions, techno-heresy is a very, very serious crime, and most tech priests are well within their right to, well, bludgeon the unfortunate idiot who thought it would be interesting to learn mechanics. But these aren't just stay back at the space docks and workshop type mechanics. These Enginseers are more than capable and happy to wade into the middle of the combat to fix whatever vehicle or whatever weapon requires it. And in order to assist them in this, they have a variety of upgrades to keep them safe. Of course, an Enginseer is already highly augmented with various cybernetic implants, making them pretty tough compared to the average human anyway, and with the abilities that their mechanical implants give, they often are superior in many ways to the standard human in terms of speed, strength, and agility. However, on top of all of this, an Enginseer wears a suit of power armor, the same kind that the average space marine would wear, although modified to suit his or her means. In addition to this power armor, which offers fantastic protection against the majority of firearms that are in the Enginseer's direction, they will have a standard armament of a las pistol and the Omniscire's power axe. This part tool, part decapitating polearm is one of the many things that keeps an Enginseer going. If you decide to get into close combat with an Enginseer, there's a fairly good chance he's going to hack your head off with this thing, because it's essentially a power weapon, and power weapons are fantastic against anything with armor, and anything without armor, it's just going to slice through like butter. And of course it makes a handy tool when you need a particularly large wrench. And if that wasn't enough, all Enginseers have what are known as Mecha Dendrites, mechanical arms or augmentations that stretch out a bit like Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man, except these don't really have a mind of their own. They're controlled by the Enginseer through a spinal connection. Essentially, he or she wills them to do whatever function he wants at the time, and that can be anything from holding a particular object very still whilst he welds it in place, to spinning really fast and drilling a hole into someone's head who's trying to stop him from fixing a particular engine. And if a Mecha Dendrite is a bit too fragile for the particular work you want to actually do, then the Enginseer has the option to take what is known as a Servo Arm. Essentially, this operates in a similar manner to a Mecha Dendrite, except it's far more robust and capable of lifting very, very heavy machinery. And in a pinch, it can also serve as a very powerful punch to anyone stupid enough to get too close. This thing can hit so hard that it's got the same impact power of a power fist. This thing can punch holes through tanks if the Enginseer is feeling particularly irritated by whoever is trying to stop him from repairing a vehicle. And if for whatever reason the Enginseer feels that his protection is not sufficient based on his armaments alone, they are often accompanied by servitors, human bodies with mechanical implants who function like drones. They can either assist in the repairs through basic programming, or they can be used essentially as defensive mobile turrets, as these poor unfortunate souls, typically who are criminals or people who the Imperium have deemed unworthy of sentience, basically get turned into these walking mechanical cybernetical monstrosities, and the rest of their life, very short life a lot of the time, is spent serving a particular Enginseer or tech priest to do whatever functions he or she deems necessary. And if that means you lose your arm and end up having a heavy bolter strapped to it, well, that's now your new lot in life. You didn't really have much of a choice in the first place, as typically speaking you get lobotomized first. 9 times out of 10 this procedure works perfectly and you have no sense of feeling, self, no sense of who you were, and you're just a walking mindless automaton. The 10th time this procedure doesn't go well and you are still a walking mindless automaton, but fully aware of what's happening and screaming inside for someone to please kill you, as you're in constant pain and unable to end the particular nightmare of being trapped inside your own body. Servitors have a pretty sucky time of it all, I'm not gonna lie. However, for the purpose of an Enginseer, a group of 3 or 4 servitors is actually very, very handy. Like I said, you can strap them with various heavy weapons, including heavy bolters and multi-melters, and this just means that you can carry on your work whilst these servitors calmly and steadily fire heavy weapons ordnance into anything coming towards you. I guarantee you that anything hit with a multi-melter to the face is not going to be enjoying that very much, regardless of what it is. You take an Enginseer because you're expecting your vehicles to take a lot of punishment, and if you have an Enginseer nearby who's got a bunch of servitors, and if you stuck them in, say, a Chimera just so they could run around the battlefield quickly, then you've got a relatively good field mechanic who will be able to repair most vehicles without too much trouble. And because he's in power armor, and because he's got some pretty decent close combat capabilities, he can cope with a certain degree of incoming enemies Just don't let this mechanic get bogged down. At the end of the day, this mechanic is just that, a mechanic. They're not there to be stuck in the fighting, they're there to be repairing your vehicles. The fighting is a distraction at best, suicidal at worst. I hope you've enjoyed this little video on the Enginseer for the Imperial Army. Please feel free to like and subscribe, put a little comment down below, and I hope to hear from you soon. I think next Sunday we are going to be talking a bit more about the biggest tanks the Imperial Guard own. Until then, take care everyone.